Daenerys Targaryen began her story not as a queen, but as a beautiful girl. She was a survivor, living in exile with her brother Viserys. They were the last known members of a great dynasty, the Targaryens, who had once ruled Westeros with dragons. Her family was overthrown in a violent rebellion, and she was born in the middle of a terrible storm, earning her the name Daenerys Stormborn. Her early life was not one of privilege but of fear. She was a pawn in her brother's games, a tool he planned to use to reclaim their family's lost throne. He sold her, traded her like property, to a powerful Dothraki warlord named Khal Drogo. This was her starting point, a young woman with no home, no power, and no voice of her own. Daenerys, in contrast, learned to be strong. She learned a new language and a new culture. At her wedding, she was given 3 petrified dragon eggs. To Daenerys, they were something more. She felt a connection to them, a warmth that no one else could feel. They represented her history, the legacy of fire and blood that ran through her veins. When Khal Drogo died and her world fell apart once more, she made a choice that would change everything. She walked into her husband's funeral pyre with her 3 dragon eggs, but she emerged from the flames completely unharmed, and with her were 3 living, breathing baby dragons. With her dragons, Daenerys gained more than just power. She found a purpose. She saw the world as it was, a place filled with suffering, cruelty, and injustice. The powerful crushed the weak, and the rich preyed on the poor. In Westeros, she saw great houses fighting over the Iron Throne, a constant cycle of conflict that brought misery to the common people. She described this as a great wheel, with different families on top, but always crushing those below. The wheel means the same powerful families keep taking turns ruling, while ordinary people always get hurt. Daenerys wanted to stop this cycle so everyone could have a better life. Her dream was not just to rule. Her dream was to break that wheel. She wanted to build a new world, a better world, one where the powerless would be protected and the chains of oppression would be shattered. This vision was what made her different from other rulers. Others sought the throne for glory, for family legacy, or for personal gain. Daenerys saw it as a tool for radical change. When she looked upon the slave cities of Essos, she didn't see strategic targets or sources of wealth. She saw millions of people living in bondage, their lives stolen from them by cruel masters. Her dragons were the fire that would burn their chains away. She earned it in the city of Astapor, where she bought an army of elite slave soldiers known as the Unsullied. But instead of keeping them as slaves, she set them free. She offered them a choice, to leave or to fight for her as free men. She did the same in Yunkai and Meereen, liberating tens of thousands of slaves. Daenerys' sense of fairness was fierce and uncompromising. She believed in justice, but her justice was often swift and absolute. When she conquered the city of Meereen, she learned that the great masters had crucified 163 slave children along the road to the city as a warning to her. She ordered 163 of the great masters to be crucified in return. It was a brutal act, a moment of an eye for an eye justice. But for Daenerys, this was not about cruelty. It was about sending a message that the crimes against the innocent would not go unpunished. This was the Targaryen blood in her, the fire that demanded retribution. Her family motto was fire and blood, and she embodied it fully. Her desire for a fair world extended to her own rule. In Meereen, she tried to be a just queen. She opened her throne room to the people, listening to their everyday problems, from goat herds whose flocks were killed by her dragons to former masters who struggled in the new world she had created. However, her commitment to justice could also make her inflexible. She saw the world in stark terms of right and wrong, good and evil. The slavers were evil. The slaves were good. The journey to the Iron Throne was long and filled with immense struggle and loss. Daenerys was not handed her power. She fought for every inch of it, and each victory came at a great personal cost. She lost her husband, Khal Drogo, and her unborn son. She had to navigate betrayals from those she trusted most. She lost 2 of her beloved dragons, Viserion and Rhaegal, who were like children to her. Each loss chipped away at her, hardening her heart and strengthening her resolve, but also leaving her more isolated and alone. As her power grew, so did the weight of her crown. Ruling was much harder than conquering. In Meereen, she faced an insurgency from the Sons of the Harpy, a group of former masters who resisted her new world order. Daenerys struggled to maintain control without becoming the very tyrant she fought against. She had to make hard choices, like closing the fighting pits only to reopen them later as a political compromise. In Essos, she was surrounded by advisors who loved her and tempered her fiery instincts, like Ser Jorah Mormont, Sir Barristan Selmy, and Missandei. But as she got closer to Westeros, her circle of trusted friends grew smaller. Sir Barristan was killed, Ser Jorah was sent away and returned only to die fighting for her. Missandei, her closest friend and confidant, was executed before her very eyes. When dealing with her enemies in Westeros, like the Tarlys who refused to bend the knee, she offered a choice: join her or die. When they refused, she executed them with dragonfire. In the end, Daenerys Targaryen's story is a profound and heartbreaking tragedy. She reached Westeros, the land she had dreamed of her whole life, only to find it was not the home she expected. She was not welcomed as a savior, but viewed as a foreign invader. The people did not flock to her banner as the freed slaves of Essos had. Her final act, the burning of King's Landing, is the most debated part of her legacy. After the city's bells of surrender had rung, she unleashed her dragon's fire upon hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. It was an act of unimaginable horror. For her, it may have been the culmination of all her pain, a final, terrible expression of fire and blood. She became the very thing she had sworn to destroy, a tyrant who ruled through fear. Her legacy is therefore one of contradictions. For much of her journey, she was a symbol of hope. She was a liberator who fought for the downtrodden. She inspired millions with her vision of a better world. She was a woman who rose from nothing, armed with only her name, her will, and her belief in the impossible. People will remember the queen who walked out of the fire with dragons, the Misa who was embraced by the slaves she had freed. But her story is also a cautionary tale about how absolute power can corrupt even the noblest of intentions. It shows how the trauma of loss and betrayal can twist a person's soul. Her quest to break the wheel ended with her becoming its most destructive force. In the end, people view Daenerys in two ways. Some see her as a fallen hero, a savior who was pushed past her breaking point. Others see her as a mad queen who was destined to follow in her father's footsteps. Perhaps the truth is that she was both. She was a queen who fought for justice and a conqueror who brought destruction, leaving behind a legacy written in both fire and ash.